Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on The Old Oak, a new movie about immigrants who move into a small town from Syria and face discrimination. However, I think the movie is heavy-handed propaganda. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 11, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. So for this one, I'm going to lay down the rules how I do this, because some of you, every once in a while, you get confused. I'm a screenwriter. I look at trailers and I analyze them. I'm not playing the trailer. I did watch it. I click through it because YouTube's algorithm flags me if I play it. Anyhow, so I give you my take on what I see in the trailer. Now, normally I don't do a ton of research. I give you my gut reaction. And my gut reaction, I think, was on point with this one. This is about my third or fourth take because I wanted to get the wording right because I think this is kind of complicated. Anyhow, from director Ken Loach and writer Paul Laverty, from the creators of Daniel Blake, and Sorry We Missed You. This woman comes from Syria. She's an immigrant in the UK. She discovers this town that she's living at. The government probably moved her in there because that's kind of the way it works. The old pub has a sign that says, "When you eat together, you stick together," and that becomes the theme in the movie. And you got all these great gushing sort of quotes. A film as fired up about and human as you'll see this year. Time out. The bartender becomes friends with her. A film with genuine heart and hope. And he becomes such friends with her. Eventually, by the end of the movie, he's marching in, I don't know, some sort of parade with the immigrants. And she always wanted to be a photographer. I wonder how that would have flown in a country like Syria. That's a bit old school. Anyhow, so the people of the town, they're older. Oh, they're fuddy-duddies. They don't like the immigrants. They're suspicious. It's very political, very heavy-handed. So let me do the 3-act breakdown real quick. First act. I mean, it's a movie we've seen a million times. The first act, a stranger from another culture shows up in town and everybody's suspicious of him. But one person steps up and says, "No, I'm going to make this person my friend and help him." In this case, it's your local bartender or landlord helps this woman out, and she is a single mom and has fallen on hard times, desperately had to leave Syria because it's such a mess. Gee, I wonder who made it a mess. Some of the racists don't want her here. Oh, they're mad. Oh, I'm going to help you, lady. Second act, she becomes a part of the town, and her ways help the town. Oh, the town is dying. If it hadn't been for this new refugees, wow, she's got all these crazy ideas about solidarity, and she rediscovers one. Those who eat together stick together. Solidarity, brothers, solidarity. Did I mention they say solidarity in the trailer? Gee, I wonder what that sounds like. And then by the third act, everybody comes around and loves the immigrants because it saves the town. It saves the town. There's no downside to immigration. What are you, some sort of conspiracy theorist? And you might look at this and say, yeah, you're going off the rails here. It's a bit political, isn't it? A bit political, just looking at a trailer. Well, that's what I suspected, and then I did a bit of a search, and there you go. At Variety, left-wing director Ken Loach, writer Paul Laverty on the poisonous seedbed for far-right politics in Britain's Rust Belt communities. So, when Variety calls you left-wing, sounds to me like you're pretty left-wing, but that's a positive, see? See, that's a positive here. Oh, but anything on the right, that's far-right. It's far-right. Look, I watch the Lotus Eaters all the time, and they talk about the immigration situation a lot. And I've seen other videos on the subject, talked to other Brits and whatnot. The immigration system in Europe is very bad. It's worse than it is in the United States. Although the United States gets worse every year. Eventually we'll elect a Republican and it'll get pulled back. In the EU, they essentially have no border control whatsoever. If you can get across the Mediterranean, you're in the EU, And then if you can get across the channel, you're in the UK. And many of these immigrants are migrants that are economic migrants, they call them. And have they come from countries with less money? Yeah, sure. But that's not because there's a gun to their head in many cases. Now, some, yes, there are some actual refugees that need help. And people want to help them. I want to help them. But when you open the doors, how do you distinguish one from another? If you call them all refugees from a country, oh, well, I'll be killed if I go back. Most immigrants, most legal ones anyway, they send their money back and they eventually go home with their money. Because it's about money. It's not about, oh, I'll be horribly murdered if I stay home. I think what this movie is trying to do, and this is just the vibe I got off the trailer. And now I have at least this to back me up, is that this is a propaganda piece to say, see, this poor woman comes from Syria, war-torn country, and she had, her husband's dead, and she wasn't allowed to be a photographer, and she has so much to give and contribute to society, and you racist, you old racist won't accept her. And see how much better the town is when one man steps up to accept this poor woman. That's a story. That's a movie. That's not reality. The reality is there are some villages in the UK of less than 1,000 people where the government attempted to jam in 600 migrants, illegal aliens essentially, in their own country. So that's a huge population. I live in a town of about 1,900 people. That would be like trying to jam 1,200 people into this town. It would be a nightmare. It would be nuts. It would completely change the town. There would be nothing but crime and problems. Our entire little tiny infrastructure would be completely overrun. There'd be people sleeping in the streets. That's what's happening in a lot of these countries. Now they're trying to push some of the migrants, or trying to bust them out to less populated areas, but it's one thing like if you're desperate and you leave your country. It's another thing if you're an economic migrant, as they call it. It also, the more people you bring in, the more chance you have to bring over criminals, especially if you have no mechanism to stop the criminals. You can have guys with records a mile long. They could be total gangsters. And they just come across the river. Why not? Gangsters are, again, creatures of opportunity. They see an opportunity to exploit, they'll exploit it. And they'll exploit the immigrants way worse. They'll come over. The immigrants are all getting free rooms, free food, especially in the UK. Sometimes here, too. So imagine a scam in which the gangsters come along and they control one of these hotels full of immigrants, and they basically say to them, listen, you got to pay a tax or you won't be safe here. So your little credit card thing, well, you're going to go out and you're going to buy us certain things and you're going to bring us 10% of that. And if you don't, you might lose everything. I guarantee you that's probably happening in some of these hotels because there's just too many people to keep track of. That's exactly what happened, by the way, in the early 1900s with the mafia. And I studied that pretty extensively. Tons of Italians were flooding out of southern Italy in the late 18 and early 1900s. And where there was a huge group of them, there would be mafia guys. And the people they would shake down would be the other Italian immigrants first. It wasn't until later that they started to expand. The first group of people they'd go after are the weak. So I think this movie is trying to propagandize the idea that, oh no, immigration all good. Anybody who stands up against it, even if there are valid societal reasons to say, hey, too much, bad, racist, old, fuddy-duddy. Not solidarity, brother. Solidarity, brother. That's one of the lines in the movie, solidarity. They use that word. Left wing, and Variety's calling them left wing. Oh, but this is a far right Far right. Oh, the seeds of far right. Oh, they're here. The seeds. Look out. Yeah, that to me sounds like anybody who says, hey, maybe we shouldn't bring hundreds of migrants into a small community of a few hundred people is, if you're saying that's far right, and that's generally been the trend in the media for many years, and keep in mind this is media too, except it's a subtle media. It's sort of like, oh, we're delivering this in a nice chocolate package, and you eat the chocolate and you go, oh, but inside is the pill, the pill of I don't know, I guess you would call it brainwashing, trying to get you to change your views on certain things. But again, this is a movie. So I don't think it's going to be particularly effective, but I think it explains why a type of movie like this would rise to the top in terms of, oh, critically acclaimed, getting awards, that kind of thing. I think that's why they make it. It's what the elite want to hear and see and do. So from a financial standpoint, it makes perfect sense within the movie industry in the UK. But I think it's propaganda. So would I see it? No. I'd refuse to see it, actually. And it's a story I've seen a million times. I don't need to see it. It's not particularly my kind of movie anyway. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's well made. But I'm sure it's over dramatized for what it is. If you had made an actual risky movie, first off, good luck getting those quotes and the awards. But I think an actual risky movie about immigration in the UK would have been a town that got flooded with immigrants, had all sorts of problems, and there'd be good and bad people on both sides. There'd be some genuinely desperate immigrants probably getting shook down by the gangsters who came along. And then genuinely nice people like this bartender trying to help but getting taken advantage of by those same gangsters and possibly people on the other side too. And then it would just explode in a big mess, because it is a big mess. That's the reality on the ground. It's not this nice thing, oh, if only people would accept it. No, that's hippie BS. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. If you can get a more base take than that, I say take it. We'll see you in the next one.